Let me begin with a simple but unavoidable question. Why do we suffer? Surely you have heard someone say that if God were good, he would not allow suffering. And if he were all-powerful, he would be able to eliminate it. So why doesn't he? I have asked this question countless times myself. Not as a distant bystander, but as someone who has experienced the impact of suffering firsthand, losing my mother as a boy, experiencing the pain of war, and later grieving the loss of the woman I loved. But through these experiences, I have found a truth that I want to share with you. Let me begin with something crucial. God is not a capricious tyrant or a clumsy craftsman. He has given us a rare and dangerous gift, free will. With it has come the ability to love genuinely, but also to choose evil. And it is from this choice that much of human suffering arises. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of rough marble. To create something beautiful, he must hammer, chisel, and cut. It is painful for the stone, but essential to its becoming a masterpiece. So God, in His love, works in us, even if at times this work seems cruel. Let me be blunt, suffering, as terrible as it has a purpose. It is, at many times, God's megaphone. When we are comfortable, secure, and happy, we tend to ignore the still small voice of God. But in pain, He shouts. Not because He wants to hurt us, but because He wants to save us. Some of you may ask, but that doesn't seem fair, Mr. Lewis. Why would a loving God allow such pain? I answer, God's justice is greater than we can comprehend. He doesn't just see the now, He sees the whole. Imagine that your life is a page in a vast, eternal book. What now seems like a messy scribble may later be part of a magnificent chapter. The pain here, my friends, is nothing compared to the future glory that is prepared for those who trust Him. But what about when the discomfort is greatest? When it's not just rain, but a devastating storm that sweeps through our lives? That's what I want to talk about today. About suffering, that storm that none of us can avoid, and about how it can have meaning, even when it seems absurd. I knew pain very early. When I lost my mother, I was just a boy. I still remember the feeling, as if the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. I was angry at God, or rather, angry at the idea of God, because I couldn't believe that a loving being would allow something so cruel. But suffering found me again, this time in war. I saw things that no words could describe. The pain, the loss, the utter despair. And once again, I asked, if there is no God, why does this feel so wrong? Why does pain feel like an intruder, something that shouldn't be here? I began to realize that my own disgust with suffering was actually evidence of something greater. Why had I expected the world to be different? Where did this desire for justice, for goodness, come from? These questions began to haunt me. It was during this time that I began to consider another possibility. What if, instead of being a mistake, suffering was part of a greater plan? What if God, in His love, allowed pain, not to destroy us, but to transform us? God whispers in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. Suffering is God's megaphone to wake up a deaf world. This was one of the hardest truths I have ever learned. Pain is often God's way of calling us back to Him. A sculptor working on a rough stone. A doctor applying bitter medicine to save someone's life. Just as a sculptor must cut away at the stone to reveal the hidden beauty, God uses suffering to shape our souls. When I met Joy, I experienced a happiness I never imagined possible. But our joy was cut short by illness. She left before I was ready. And once again, I found myself faced with the same question, why? I cried out to God. I questioned His goodness. But in the end, I realized that my love for Joy was merely a reflection of God's perfect love. The pain of losing her taught me to cherish not only the moments we had together, but also the hope that one day we would meet again. What I have discovered, my friends, is that suffering, as terrible as it is not the end. It is a reminder that this world is not our final home. It is a preparation for something greater, something eternal. The Apostle Paul said that the sufferings of this present are not worth comparing to the future glory that awaits us. I believe this. Not because it is easy, but because it is true. If you are experiencing pain now, do not deny it, do not ignore it. Instead, ask, what is God teaching me? How is He shaping me? And remember, suffering is never the final word. In Christ, the final word is always redemption.